Blockbuster opened in 1985. By the end of the decade, it had over 1,000 locations. Friday nights meant wandering the aisles, hoping your favorite movie wasn't already rented. You grabbed a VHS and some milk duds and prayed the last person had rewound it. Summer meant piling into the car for Florida, Disney, Daytona, or just a cheap motel with a pool. That was enough. You played road trip bingo and fought over the map, snacked on gas station peanuts until someone puked. Seeing palm trees? Pure magic. Saturday mornings smelled like freedom and cereal. Cartoons started at 7 and ran till noon. You didn't miss a minute. Cross-legged in front of the TV, Cap'n Crunch in hand. Hypnotized by Thundercats, G.I. Joe, and toy commercials. That was your time. No one messed with it. You recorded songs off the radio, finger on the pause button, waiting for the DJ to shut up. If you nailed it, you felt like a genius. If not, Casey Kasem ruined the intro of Take On Me. In 1983, McDonald's launched Chicken McNuggets nationwide. There was no going back. Crispy, addictive, perfect little bites. Kids begged for them. Adults stole one, just to check the temperature. Then couldn't stop. Arcades were the heartbeat of every mall. Quarters in your pocket, joystick in hand. Pac-Man glowing on the screen. Synth music and frantic button mashing all around. High scores earned you respect. If someone beat your record, you stayed until you got it back. The average house cost about $80,000. It gave you room to breathe. 3 bedrooms, real wood cabinets, shag carpet. A backyard big enough for a grill and slip and slide. You didn't dream of luxury. You dreamed of privacy. And that second bathroom? Pure gold. The Sears Wish Book was Christmas in print. Hundreds of pages of toys, gadgets, and wild dreams. You circled everything in red pen. Folded corners, left it where your parents would find it. Half the joy was flipping through it again and again. In 1986, gas dropped below $1. Stations flipped signs to 89 cents. Attendants still cleaned your windshield. Drivers cheered like they'd won the lottery. Every drive felt twice as sweet. Every house had the photo wall. Awkward school pics, soft focus glamour shots, your uncle's perm framed proudly in oak. Stand still too long in the living room. Someone might frame you too. Kids drank straight from the garden hose. No filters, no BPA warnings. Just cold, metal-tasting water shared by friends. One by one, after long bike rides. And we lived to tell the tale. The clapper turned lights into magic. Clap once, lights off. Clap twice, lights on. Every commercial ended with, clap on, clap off, the clapper. It felt futuristic until your dog sneezed at 2 a.m. and turned it on. The average salary in the 80s was about $17,000, and somehow it was enough. You fed a family, bought a car, still had money left for movie night. Life was simple. And $5 in the backyard, all the fun you needed. In 1981, MTV launched with Ladies and Gentlemen, Rock and Roll. America lit up in color. Music videos mattered as much as music. Bands didn't just sound cool, they had to look cool too. Burgers came wrapped in foil. Fast food was greasy, salty, and perfect after baseball practice. Fries came in paper bags. Milkshakes bent your straw. You always left with ketchup packets in your pocket. In 1985, Coca-Cola changed its recipe. They launched New Coke. People hated it. Lines formed, letters poured in, phones lit up. 3 months later, they gave in. They brought back the original, now called Coke Classic, one of history's most beloved failures. In the 80s, there were no texts at school. You passed notes, folded, scribbled, full of secrets. You passed notes, folded like origami, labeled read now, and slid across desks like secret missions. If someone caught you, it went straight to the trash, unless the teacher read it out loud. Then goodbye, dignity. In 1985, the Nintendo Entertainment System hit U.S. shelves. Suddenly, Mario wasn't just a plumber, he was a hero. Duck Hunt, Zelda, Punch-Out! Games came in gray plastic bricks. You had to blow into them to make them work, and when they finally did, hours vanished. Trapper Keepers were status symbols. Loud colors, Velcro flaps, matching folders. If yours had unicorns or race cars, you were royalty. You opened it in class like a briefcase full of secrets, and when the Velcro ripped, heads turned. You recorded TV on blank VHS tapes, labeled them with marker, stacked them next to the VCR. If someone taped over your movie night, that was grounds for war. Shelves were filled with homemade archives, some still in basements half-labeled dusty. Car interiors smelled like warm vinyl and crayons. Sticky bench seats, roll-down windows, seat belt buckles that burned your legs. No airbags, no cup holders. Just you, the road, and your dad saying, "We're not stopping." In 1986, the Challenger disaster stopped the country cold. Millions watched it live. Kids, too, because a teacher was on board, Krista McAuliffe. It was supposed to be inspiring. Instead, it was heartbreaking. And America never forgot. In 1981, IBM released its first personal computer. It looked like a boxy little spaceship. Businesses loved it. Schools experimented. Tech guys said it changed everything. They were right. But it still couldn't beat Tetris on Game Boy. In 1984, Apple aired its famous Super Bowl ad. It only aired once, but it made history. A woman in red throws a hammer at Big Brother. Boom. The PC world changed forever. It was bold, weird. Totally unforgettable. Popcorn ceilings were everywhere. Bumpy, weirdly satisfying, looked like frosting made of drywall. You'd lie on the floor staring at them, counting shapes, flicking Nerf darts to see if they'd stick. Most of the time, they did. You didn't stream your favorite shows. You waited all week. Thursday night meant The Cosby Show, Cheers, Family Ties. Miss an episode? Tough luck. You prayed for a rerun or asked someone at school. But no spoilers, because that word didn't exist yet. In 1982, E.T. phoned home. It broke every box office record. You cried. Your parents cried. Even your big brother cried. Suddenly, Reese's Pieces were cooler than M&Ms. And every kid wished for a glowing finger and a BMX bike. Grocery trips cost about $60 for a family of 4. Milk was around $2. Bread under $1. Ground beef close to $1.30 a pound. You could fill a cart without going broke. Coupons helped. But food wasn't luxury. It just fed you. In 1987, The Simpsons debuted as shorts on The Tracy Ullman Show. They were squiggly, weird, unpolished, but Bart had attitude. Homer was clueless. Nobody guessed they'd become the longest-running TV family ever. In 1986, Top Gun made fighter jets cool again. Tom Cruise. Beach volleyball. A soundtrack stuck in your head for years. Everyone wanted a bomber jacket, a motorcycle, a wingman. In 1989, the Berlin Wall fell. Even American kids felt it. We'd seen movies, practiced drills, heard speeches about Russians. Then suddenly, the Cold War cracked open. Reagan's line, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall," didn't sound like a movie quote anymore. The Ford Escort ruled the road. Small, boxy, reliable. Came in mustard yellow or siphon green. Your mom drove one. Your friend crashed one. If it was your first car, you were set. In 1983, Microsoft Word launched. Not flashy, but it let you type, save, and edit. No more whiteout. Typing a paper without redoing the page felt like witchcraft. And if you had a printer, you were a tech wizard. Before GPS, road trips meant giant fold-out maps, big as your windshield. Fights over which exit to take. The glove box stuffed with old maps. If you made it without getting lost, miracle. In 1981, Raiders of the Lost Ark hit theaters. Indiana Jones became every kid's adventure hero. The hat, the whip, the fear of snakes. He made archaeology cool for the first, and maybe last time in history. In 1984, Tetris was born in the Soviet Union. But when Nintendo bundled it with the Game Boy, it exploded. Falling blocks, heart racing, music playing in your sleep. Still does. You couldn't text your friends. You had an address book, a wall calendar, maybe an answering machine that beeped like a microwave. If someone missed your call, they called back. That was social media, and it worked. Shopping malls were the teenage kingdom. You didn't go to shop, you went to be seen. Walkman on your belt, Orange Julius in hand. A stop at Spencer's Gifts, laughing at lava lamps and weird t-shirts. It was freedom with air conditioning. You sent film to be developed. 1 hour photo wasn't everywhere yet. You dropped off a roll, waited days, hoped they weren't all blurry. The envelope of glossy prints? Pure treasure. Cash ruled the 80s. If you wanted something, you paid for it in paper, or coins, or a handwritten check. You kept your money in a nylon Velcro wallet that made a ripping sound loud enough to silence a room, and somehow it made you feel rich. Every living room had a giant wood-paneled TV. It took 2 people to move it, weighed as much as a refrigerator, and had rabbit ears wrapped in foil for better signal. Sometimes you had to bang the side just to stop the picture from jumping. You wore your favorite band on your t-shirt. Concert tees weren't just clothes, they were your identity. You ironed them flat, wore them thin, never threw them out. AC, DC, Journey, Van Halen. Whatever was on your chest, that was your crew. Microwaves changed everything. Suddenly, dinner didn't take an hour. You could zap a Salisbury steak, nuke a burrito, or reheat last night's coffee. No more waiting on the oven. Just push a few buttons and wait for the ding. Reagan was everywhere. Love him or not, Ronald Reagan defined the 80s. His voice, his hair, his optimism. He called the Soviet Union the evil empire, promised morning in America, and somehow made jelly beans seem presidential. His speeches were pure Hollywood, and so was his delivery. Cabbage Patch Kids caused riots. In 1983, parents fought in the aisles, chasing the last doll. Each had a unique name, a chubby face, and a fake birth certificate. It wasn't just a toy. It was proof you cared enough to elbow strangers for your kid. School lunch in the 80s meant rectangular pizza. Lukewarm milk in a cardboard carton. Maybe a fruit cup with a half peach floating in syrup. You ate it on a plastic tray under flickering fluorescent lights, and somehow it was still the best part of the day. Every neighborhood had at least one Kool-Aid mom. Made in an old Tupperware pitcher, sugar headed by feel, not measurement. One sip in your mouth turned purple. The walls were sticky. Nobody cared. It was summer in a cup. Gas station maps were free. You walked in, grabbed one from the rack, asked the clerk which road had less traffic. No GPS, no apps. Just a creased-up paper guide and some local advice. Take the wrong turn? That's how adventures happened. Roller rinks were packed. Disco lights, fog machines, endless loops around the rink. Madonna or Foreigner blasting. Hold someone's hand during the slow song? You were basically dating bonus points if you didn't fall. Boomboxes were the street's soundtrack. Big, loud, slung over your shoulder. They blasted Run DMC, Madonna, Springsteen on cassette. If your batteries died mid-song, you either changed them or held a funeral for your street cred. In 1982, Time magazine's Man of the Year wasn't a man. It was the computer. That's how massive tech had become. Personal computers were creeping into homes and classrooms, mysterious machines. Everyone knew were important, but no one really understood yet. Kids tapped the keys just to hear the click. Teachers rolled them in on carts like they held nuclear codes. No one could guess that one day they'd live in your pocket. Velcro shoes changed the game for kids. No more bunny ears, loops, or double knots. Just strap, snap, and go. They made you feel invincible, like your sneakers were jets. Even if you still tripped over your own feet, you got up faster. Because you were fast now. At least in your head. Laserdisc looked like it had landed from the future. It was shiny, oversized, and promised crystal clear quality that VHS could only dream of. But it cost too much, barely fit on your shelf, and skipped if you breathed too hard. Most families stuck with tapes. But if your friend's dad had a Laserdisc player, you knew he worked in tech, whatever that meant back then. In 1980, Post-it notes quietly entered the world and then took over. Bright yellow squares popped up everywhere, on fridge doors, car dashboards, bathroom mirrors. Suddenly, your mom didn't have to yell to tell you to clean your room. She just stuck a note. And somehow, that little paper square had more power than her voice. TV commercials were part of the ritual. Jingles lived in your head rent-free. Mascots became more famous than movie stars. Saturday morning cartoons came sandwiched between cereal ads and toy spots that made you desperate to beg your parents. No skipping. No DVR. If you wanted to fast forward, you better have had the reflexes to hit record on your VCR the night before. In the 80s, flying was still glamorous. Your ticket came with hot meals on a plastic tray, real legroom, and maybe even a free deck of cards. Kids got shiny pilot wings pinned to their shirts. Luggage was free. The seats had ashtrays. And flight attendants smiled like you were on your way to Hollywood, not Cleveland. Home perms were a rite of passage. Girls' moms, even the occasional brave dad, came out of the bathroom with fluffy curls that smelled like salon chemicals for days. Bangs were teased so high they had their own zip code. Aquanet held them in place like steel. Style wasn't subtle, it was a statement. Jelly shoes hit playgrounds like neon confetti. Translucent plastic, glitter-filled, with a sweet plastic scent you can still remember. They squeaked, pinched your toes, and left melted outlines on the sidewalk. But if your feet sparkled purple in the sun, you ruled recess. In 1980, CNN launched and became the first 24-hour news network. Suddenly, the news didn't end at dinner. You could wake up at midnight and see a breaking headline from halfway across the globe. For better or worse, it rewired how Americans consumed news and how often they worried. Every kitchen had a drawer full of Tupperware, not matching, not stackable, just a chaos of mustard yellow, avocado green, and burnt orange containers that never seemed to fit their own lids. Your mom brought home gadgets from Tupperware parties no one ever used, but somehow they still took up prime cabinet space. The Pepsi Challenge was born in the 70s, but lived its best life in the 80s. You'd see the table at a mall, or a fair, or outside a grocery store. 2 mystery cups. One choice, Coke or Pepsi. Pick Pepsi. Get a sticker or button like a badge of honor. It was cheesy, low-stakes marketing, and everyone loved it. Your calculator was a tank. Heavy rubber buttons. Cost half your allowance. If it had solar power, you were a legend. Teachers let you use it in class, as long as you promised not to flip the screen upside down and type 58,008. Which, of course, you did. Socks went over your pants. Especially if you were going to aerobics. Neon leg warmers, sweat bands, leotards, thanks to Jane Fonda. Working out looked like you were auditioning for a music video. You didn't just sweat, you posed. Choose your own adventure books made reading thrilling and fatal. One page, you're solving a mystery. 5 pages later, you're eaten by space squids. You kept a finger in the previous choice, just in case. Was it cheating? Maybe. But the multiverse depended on you. Trivial Pursuit wasn't just a game, it was a cultural takeover. Every living room had one. Every family thought they were smart until the pink entertainment category showed up. It caused fights, laughter, and grudges. The board never lied. Released in 1981, it was the board game that made you feel smart until the arts and literature category humbled you. Families played for hours, arguing over answers, bending the rules, and insisting someone had already read that card. Answering machines talked for you. A tiny cassette recorded missed calls with a robotic voice or your dad saying, "Leave a message after the beep." Some people made custom jingles. You called home just to hear your own voice. In 1980, Rubik's Cube arrived in the US 6 colors. Endless frustration. You'd twist and twist until you gave up, peeled off the stickers, or swore you almost had it. Solving one without cheating? Legendary. Everyone used payphones. A quarter gave you a local call, and every gas station or street corner had a scratched metal box with a dangling cord. Forgot the number? You flipped through the phone book chain to the booth, hoping someone picked up. You didn't stream or download games. You rented them. One cartridge at a time. No saves, no tutorials. You had 48 hours to beat it or cry trying. If it was rented already, tough luck. You waited. Swatch watches weren't just for telling time. They were personality. Neon colors, jelly straps, sometimes 2 stacked together. You wore it everywhere, the mall, arcade, even church. Somehow, they always smelled like plastic and strawberry lip gloss. Crimped hair was everywhere. Girls used heated irons to create zigzag patterns and burned fingertips. If your hair looked like a folded fan, you nailed it. Add a scrunchy side ponytail and glitter lip gloss. Instant icon. Class photos were a full-blown event. You wore your best sweater, fixed your bangs just right, and stood on bleachers while the photographer yelled. Say cheese. Half the class blinked. Someone did bunny ears. Nobody looked at the camera together. Pencils came with erasers shaped like ice cream, footballs, or pineapples. They didn't erase much, but smelled like bubble gum and made your pencil case feel magical. Trading erasers during recess felt more important than math. Movie theaters had sticky floors and buttery popcorn. You bought your ticket at a glass booth, picked a seat with no cup holder, and probably snuck in candy. If someone tall sat in front, too bad. You leaned sideways the whole film. Polaroid pictures weren't perfect, but they were yours. Click. Were. Then you flapped the little square like casting a spell. A blurry face faded in crooked smile and all. No filters, no second takes. Just one shot in a fridge memory. You didn't Google lyrics. You guessed them. Sang Hold Me Closer, Tony Danza, until someone corrected you. Even then, you weren't sure. DJs never repeated lyrics, and cassette liner notes were folded like origami. Yard sales were neighborhood events. Parents laid stuff on blankets, haggled over toasters and lamps, and sipped coffee from foam cups. You sold lemonade in Dixie cups and hoped someone would pay a dime for your old toys. In 1984, Ghostbusters took over pop culture. Everyone quoted it, drew the logo on their folders, and dreamed of owning a proton pack. If your parents got you the plastic one with the foam blaster, you were officially the coolest kid on the block. You learned to type on a beige keyboard, no internet, no distractions. Mavis Beacon taught you one painful finger at a time. Hitting 30 words per minute felt like you could apply for CEO. Classrooms smelled like pencil shavings, chalk dust, and peanut butter sandwiches. There was always a pull-down map, a squeaky globe, and if you got to run the film strip projector, You were royalty. Every fridge had alphabet magnets, letters everywhere, names, jokes, half-spelled words, and the occasional weird message your little brother thought was hilarious. Kids used them to spell weird messages. Adults used them for grocery lists. And somehow, at least 3 letters were always missing, usually QZ, and the second E, the pencil sharpener was bolted to the wall. You cranked it like a machine from the 1800s, shaving your pencil into a tiny wooden spear. It squealed loud enough to interrupt class, and half the time, it just chewed up your pencil instead. Trick-or-treating meant pillowcases full of candy and plastic masks that made you sweat like a furnace. Your breath fogged up the eye holes, but you powered through because that full-size Snickers wasn't going to earn itself. In 1987, Full House hit the air. Corny jokes, hugs at the end, and 3 grown men raising kids in a house that somehow kept getting bigger. Whether you liked it or not, "You got it, dude," became part of everyday vocabulary. You didn't stream Christmas movies. You waited all year. Rudolph, Frosty, Charlie Brown, they aired once. Miss it, and too bad. You circled the date in the TV guide, popped popcorn, and watched it with the whole family under one blanket. You drank Tab Even if you didn't like it. That pink can. That weird aftertaste. It felt futuristic, maybe even radioactive. It was diet soda for people who wanted to feel ahead of their time, or just ran out of Diet Coke. Every kid had a plastic lunchbox with a matching thermos. Scooby-Doo, Transformers, Strawberry Shortcake, your lunchbox said everything about you. Forget to tighten the thermos lid? Your soup leaked. Your PB&J ended up tasting like tomato by noon. You had to rewind your VHS tapes. If you returned one without rewinding, the rental store charged you a fee and gave you the look. Be kind. Rewind wasn't just a slogan. It was a moral obligation. Stickers covered everything. Lunchboxes, binders, closet mirrors. Some were glittery. Some were fuzzy. Some said things like, "Rad," or "totally awesome." Peel one off wrong and ruin it? Devastating. Basically, vandalism. Mall food courts were weekend hangouts. Pizza or orange chicken on your tray. Friends around the table. A mountain of napkins. After lunch, you hit the arcade or Spencer's Gifts. It wasn't just shopping. It was life. Your school folder had Lisa Frank or the A-Team. Neon dolphins and rainbow tigers, or muscle cars and dudes with machine guns. There was no middle ground. If your folder had a cool cover, you showed it off like a badge of honor. Back to the Future wasn't just a movie. It was a blueprint for the future. You dreamed of hitting 88 miles per hour in a DeLorean, sipping futuristic Pepsi, landing in a world of hoverboards and flying cars. Time travel felt real as long as you had plutonium and a mall parking lot. You checked the newspaper for movie times. No apps, no Google. Just a long column of theaters and showtimes in tiny print. Circle the one you wanted, then convince your parents. You circled the movie you wanted, called your friend from the kitchen phone, and hoped someone's mom could drive. You learned to whistle through a blade of grass. One sharp squeal between your thumbs, and suddenly, every kid on the playground tried it. It never worked on the first try. But when it did, you felt like a sound wizard. The biggest celebrity endorsement of the decade? Sneakers. In 1984, Nike signed Michael Jordan and the Air Jordan era began. By the end of the 80s, shoes weren't just shoes. They were status, and if yours were scuffed, you were devastated. You memorized phone numbers, friends, grandparents, pizza delivery. They all lived in your head. Forget one? You checked the Rolodex or the back of your address book. Lose that list? You might as well lose your social life. The weather report was a guy with a pointer stick. Green screens weren't fancy yet. Your local weatherman looked like someone's uncle. If he said, "chance of rain," You packed both an umbrella and sunscreen, just in case. America got its workout in the living room. You popped in a Jane Fonda VHS, wore spandex tighter than your future, and bounced to synth music on shag carpet. No gym. No excuses. Just sweet bands, pastel leotards, and a war on calories that smelled like Aquanet. Sunday nights meant the Disney Sunday movie. You bathed, put on pajamas, and plopped in front of the BC as Tinkerbell lit up the castle. 1 hour of wholesome adventure flight of the Navigator. Old Yeller reruns, then straight to bed. School clothes laid out. Dreams still sparkling with pixie dust. People met through friends, school, or church. No apps, just nerves, guts, and maybe a mixtape. First date? Usually the mall. Maybe a movie. Definitely food court pizza. You didn't split the bill. You saved up for it. And if the night ended with a kiss, you were walking on air. If you want to see 100 forgotten things from the 1950s, just click the video on your screen. Thanks for watching.